Hi, I'm Laura, and I am a part of the Ridge through my daughter receiving recovery services here. And I became a part of the family programming, which was a vital element for my own recovery and supporting my daughter well. So I found my own recovery through Al-Anon. And before that, I had started this journey into taking care of myself. And so when I came to the Ridge with my daughter, it just was the icing on the cake. It added everything and it pulled everything together. And the family programming here, along with just the Al-Anon group, provided that framework for me that I really needed. She was radiant and goal-oriented when we saw her on her 26th birthday on July 17th. She relapsed less than a week later and passed away on July 25th. Our world is shattered and broken, but I am so grateful for this journey, bringing me back to the Ridge today. I can still see Annie sitting in this room, right there. I hear her whispering, "Thank you, Mama." She always called me Mama, for sharing her story. Keep sharing, break the stigma, and perhaps one person will benefit from the loss. Annie became an accidental addict. But Annie is beyond just being labeled as an addict. She was thoughtful, empathetic, hardworking, loving, the best thrift store shopper, and will always be our little girl. These labels provide a framework for defining who and what we are, but not one label is the totality of any of us. I am standing up here, not as a physician, a therapist, or even your fairy godmother, who's going to wave my magic wand around and make everything better. But I am a fellow traveler in this journey called life. My goal is to bring you a ray of hope, tools and strategies to face storms and challenges, and find a little piece of joy in every day. Many paths and roads have led us to be sitting here together today. All of our stories and experiences are unique and a part of who we are right now. When I began this journey into joy, grace, and light, our family's world was filled with sadness, chaos, and darkness. I began to realize that I needed to take care of me and literally live out the serenity prayer that resonates with me the most. God, grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the one I can, and the wisdom to know that one is me. I am not standing before you as a teacher, but a guide in helping you explore ways to bring balance, harmony, and joy into your life, whatever your circumstances. Some of the things that I share may resonate with you. Other things may not serve you at all. Keep the strategies and ideas that will benefit you and toss the other things aside. Whew, I made it. I made it. I shared her story. I shared her story and my story. It can be done. So we're going to do a little brain break because I'm going to teach you one of the first strategies that I have learned when I am in a stressful situation. In fact, I practice this like half of my drive here because I live in Dayton. So literally this breath works, and it's called a 2-to-1 breath and 2-to-1 breathing. And basically your exhale is twice as long as your inhale. And the reason for that is your exhale taps you into that parasympathetic, that rest and digest part of your brain. And so anytime, I've been at doctor's appointments where I've been feeling kind of stressed and I'm just sitting there in the doctor's office just practicing this breath. So you can join along or you can ignore this part if you want to. Remember, I feel like a yoga teacher right now. Do whatever works best for you. Take what you can and leave the rest. So we're going to just spend about a minute just breathing. You can keep your eyes closed. or open your eyes. It could be stress, worry, boredom, anxiety, fear. I want you to take that word, place it in a little tiny box, and set that box right outside this room. It's not serving you right now. We are in this safe and supportive environment. So I want you to just feel that right now. And just open your eyes when you feel ready, when you're done with your breathing. So, didn't that help? It really does. Even just taking a little pause. While I'm teaching, I a lot of times will give my students brain breaks. So you're going to find that I'm going to give you some brain breaks through our time together. It's important for us to do that. So I want to begin telling you my journey into joy, grace, and light. And about 9 years ago, Annie had begun a pattern of behavior that was impacting our family pretty significantly. Paul and I were paralyzed, and my mind was constantly racing with the what ifs. I always say my life is the what now. My what if is a reality. So I live with what now. So I knew that this pattern was destroying us, and it was destroying me. So little by little, bit by bit, I began putting practices into my daily life that kept me grounded and able to support Annie with her recovery while staying in my lane. All of you can hear Mary Jo saying that, right? Staying in my lane. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. These are some of the practices that I began to implement in my daily routine, and these changes literally began rewiring my brain to be balanced, grounded, and able to face challenges without getting swept up into it. A side benefit is that it kept me grounded while working with students with severe behavioral concerns. My career was filled with students in crisis. So these practices, I can attest, literally rewired my brain. So again, we're going to benefit from what will work for you and lay the other things aside. And we're going to look at 5 practices: exercise, mental, physical, and spiritual, journaling. I put there a word of intention. Contemplative photography, the art of noticing, and then a self-care challenge. So I'm going to go to the first slide. This one is interesting because I was working in an environment where it was high stress. A lot of students always in crisis. And so what I started doing was I started setting my alarm 20 to 30 minutes earlier than what I had. You would think hitting the snooze button would help, but in this situation, actually implementing just some ways to get started in the morning to calm my brain was transformative. So again, I'm going to share with you what worked for me. So this is my day. I literally get up, I get my cup of coffee, I go down to my little nook on the couch, I sit there, I scan the New York Times, just the headlines, just to see what's happening. But then this is the most important part. I do it in this order: mini crossword, Wordle, Sudoku, spelling bee. Always. I know, it's a little bit weird, but it works for me, right? Because I'm starting the day just getting my brain going and thinking about something else rather than waking up in crisis, right? That's important. Meditation and prayer. The Calm app. I should be like a paid for this, paid endorsement, right? Because every time I share this with my students, I use this Calm app all the time. Anybody use the Calm app? I'm curious. Just a couple people. Is it not the best thing? It is. It has sleep stories, it has music, it has meditations, it has everything. I'm working through a series on grief right now. So I'm like, again, and I put up here, I'm on day 2,145. I'm now at like 200, I don't know what it is. But I don't share that to brag, but to say this literally rewired my brain. By adding in a routine where every morning I listen to Jay Shetty or Tamara Levitt, or Jeff Warren. Those are kind of the main people that lead just 10-minute meditations. It's simple. I love this though because I put this up here because I loved it. It says, be a light to others without shining that light directly in their eyes. And it was a whole meditation on, like, don't tell people, like, I'm a vegan, you have to be a vegan. Well, I'm telling you the same thing. I love the Calm app. I'm not telling you to use it. I'm trying to just shine a little light and give you a few little tools. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. So that's just kind of where I'm coming at in terms of mental exercise. So that was important. Physical and spiritual. So for me, physical, I love yoga. It's so ingrained in my life now. Walking, hiking, just fresh air. Whatever your exercise you love to do, just get out there and move. It just literally helps our brains. This is a photo that I took on a hike with Emily. And I love this photo because there's a my favorite quote from Bruce Cockburn in a song. It's called, "All the diamonds in this world that mean anything to me are conjured up by wind and sunlight sparkling on the sea." And I think that just beautifully portrays that everything that means the world to us isn't necessarily things. It's experiences, it's people, it's just being together. So, and then spiritual, again, higher power, whatever it is. That's the reason for me. I do meditation every day. I do reading. I still read Al-Anon material. I also now have added a grief daily reading. So sometimes our reading changes. Sometimes our experience changes to what we do. But that's just a little bit of part of what I do there. So the next one is journaling. And journaling has always been a part of my life journey. I enjoy recording lyrics, poems, hymns, prayers, thoughts, and inklings. But in 2022, some of you have heard this. Oops, where's my, oh, here it is. In 2022, I made the decision to choose a word of intention. So here's my journal from 2022. Little did I realize what 2022 would hold in store for me. So my word was joy. And here's the very first page in my journal. I asked God to make me willing to see clearly my everyday experiences, to sharpen my perceptions of how much there is to enjoy, even in ordinary things and happenings. Let me be receptive and restore to me my capacity for wonder, which I thought was amazing. You know, when 2022 started, I thought, this is going to be great. I'm going to look for joy in every single day. Well, I believe that word was not random as to why I picked it. Some days were easier than others, and obviously on July 25th, it was really hard to dig deep for joy. But I was with a friend of mine. We were going to go to a yoga festival when I found out that Annie had passed away. And she was there. She was my rock. And that's what we all need, is none of us are going to live this life without something. So again, I made it to the end. I did it every day. And it's really fun. The other part that I encourage you is, it's really neat to reflect back on all those days, the good and the bad. So, it was hard to read through on December 31st, when I'm changing over to a new word. So my word in 2023 that I chose is grace and gratitude. And each day I find a moment where grace has been shown, or something or someone I'm grateful for. So this simple practice provides so many benefits, and I had to find this. Robert Emmons, he's a leading scholar in the benefits of gratitude. He says, that gratitude allows a person to celebrate the present, block toxic emotions, stress, envy, resentment, depression, be more resilient, and strengthen social ties and self-worth. So how cool is that? I accidentally picked a word that is going to help me even in my journey right now. So a word of intention is beneficial throughout the year, but it's also beneficial each day. So during my yoga sessions at my local studio, the teacher will often have us choose a word of intention for the practice. The word could be love, strength, integrity. We already have some up here, right? That are cool, amazing words for intentions. So what we're going to do, here's our little mini brain break. You're all going to get a Post-it note, and I want you to think of a word of intention for today, or for your year, or for your moment, or for whatever it is. And if you want to, you don't have to. You can get up and bring it and put your Post-it note here, or lift it up, and Mary Jo or myself can grab the Post-it note from you. But you're going to get. We should have planned that out, Mary Jo.
I know, I should have.
That's okay. That's okay.
I am not the one that said planner.
So again, do you see how I'm building in a little mini brain break for you and for me? This helps me. This helps. Remember, my first degree was art education, so I do enjoy art and I do enjoy lettering and doing all this. And so people would always be like, I'm not an artist. I can't do that. I can't do that. And I'm like, so I stopped showing journals as my example because I didn't want to stifle anyone else's creativity. Journals are for yourself, right? They're for your own reflection. They're for your own recovery, basically. This was my recovery. I had been doing it accidentally all this time. So again, when I think about journaling, take it or leave it. But just a little thought. Whoops, going the wrong way. The next one is really interesting because I was introduced to this several years ago by, she's an amazing pastor at our church, and she left, but we do kind of spiritual practices during Lent, which is right now. And so one of the workshops that she taught was contemplative photography, and this just really resonated with me. I don't consider myself a photographer. In fact, these photos were taken with my iPhone, so I'm not a photographer, but I enjoy looking at the world. And what I love is this was kind of a, whoops. This was taken out of the book, The Practice of Contemplative Photography, and it says, the practice of contemplative photography is one of being present to life as it is, to capturing the essence of the world around us and finding that is more rich, complex, and wondrous than we ever imagined. So we all are constantly using our phones to snap pictures, but this practice really helped me to slow down and really just look at the world around me. And so this photo that I have up here where it says, do not worry, this was, I'm going to show you several of the slides. And what happened is, this was happening during the pandemic. And it was really at the beginning of the pandemic. And so this was also a time that Annie was really having a hard time. And so what I did was, Paul and I, we went to Florida. We just took a break from everything. And I was walking the beach, and as I was walking the beach, I saw these birds kind of scampering around in the water, and they were eating, and they were just adorable. But then I just kept thinking, do not worry. Do not worry. Because I knew that the birds were being fed, and they were finding what they needed, and so the same thing was true for me. I needed to find my place, my peace, and what worked for me. So again, I'm going to show you some of the photos, and they are in the context with God. You can insert higher power, whatever you want to insert for these photos, but this is taken in my yoga room. I have a little yoga space in my house, and I just was like, peace in the shadows, because this space for me is so sacred, and it's just where a lot of healing for me takes place. And then I just put God is near, because it is a quiet space for me. Light, color, God is near. I snapped this picture of Maddie as she was coming down the steps. This is Maddie. She's 6 now. But I just love this sweet photo of her just bathed in light. That's how I envision Annie now, bathed in light. Reaching out, God is near. Yes?
Are you taking these with a special camera or just your outdoor?
These are with my iPhone.
Wow.
These are with my iPhone. But like I said, the iPhones are amazing now. I find them to be incredible. You know, I'm like, hey, I feel like a photographer, you know, but again, I think the purpose is not to catch the most perfect shot. A lot of mine that I have now, people have never seen. So again, I'm actually teaching it at my church now during Lent this time. So it's really cool. We're practicing light and dark and where we see light and dark, because that ties in perfectly with what we're studying. But again, the purpose of this is to slow down. The purpose of this is to really be present in the moment. It's not the quality of the photo. So, and then in the garden, God is near. I love gardening, and this is in my front part of my house, and I love perennials, so these are perennials. But just kind of thinking about the shapes and the direction, and it was like a little sundial, and I don't know, just sometimes it's just fun to wander. I live in an area where it's easy to hike in the woods a little bit, and so that's where I find my most peaceful space and the space that inspires me the most. So I just encourage you, just with this practice, it's kind of a cool way to slow down. The next one is called The Art of Noticing and Slowing Down. Are you catching a theme of what I'm trying to share with you as to what benefited me? Is really because I feel like sometimes when we're supporting someone in recovery or we're in recovery ourselves, we're in overdrive. We're in constant overdrive. And it's really important to start to help our brain settle and calm and become calm. When I worked with students with behavioral concerns, that's part of what we worked on, is identifying how we were feeling, and then, because no emotion is bad. Did you know that? Nothing is bad. It's what we do with it. So I always think about that when we're thinking about trying to slow down. Sometimes it's hard. I know for Annie, it was very hard for her to sit in a meeting like this. That's the reason for me, get up and walk around. Go do a little, stretch. Do whatever you need to, because there are no rules in terms of what your recovery is going to look like, or your family member's recovery is going to look like, or just being there for someone. So again, I'm going to take this book. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. Oh, here's my favorite person gave me this journal that became my journal. Thank you, Mary Jo. She gave me this journal, and this is my journal for this year. Is this not great? Because this was Annie's quote, by the way, grace upon grace. I said, if I ever get a tattoo, that's what I'm going to get, grace upon grace. Because I designed one for her, and I still am thinking I might get it. What do you guys think? Yeah. Okay. But this book is very cool and fun because it just teaches you ways to notice. So I pulled a couple from the book that I think are some of the best ideas. So again, take a walk and search for a color in the world around you. This is a fascinating one because, for example, I've added orange to my family room as an accent color. I know that's weird, but I just like orange. So my husband and I went to an antique mall, and I started walking through, and it's amazing when you think about a color, and all of a sudden you're like, orange, orange, orange. And you start connecting and thinking, there's a lot of orange things. Or like, for example, if I said turquoise and told you to look around the room, where do you see turquoise? There, there, Post-it note. And so it's just a neat way, like if your mind is racing, this is one. Hunt for a sound. This is another fun one. I do this sometimes where I just hunt for a sound. I think about a sound, or I notice sounds when I'm walking. Okay, this is counterintuitive to what I just shared with you, but take a photo walk with no camera. So I just told you about contemplative photography. Well, now I'm telling you, take a photo walk with no camera. It's fascinating because sometimes I purposefully do that. I do not bring my phone with me so I don't have any distractions. So I look at the environment around me. This is another one that I love, is just change the way you get someplace. That is a really cool thing to do because it keeps your brain stimulated and kind of thinking, and then you just notice something else that you've never noticed before. And then this last one is one that teachers use quite often, but I love that this was included in the book because I thought this would be a good one about noticing when you're in conversation with someone. Just apply the SLANT method. We would tell students SLANT, that means they had to sit up and look at the speaker. And so again, you sit up, you lean forward, ask and answer questions, nod your head, and then you just and track the speaker. So that, again, tracking the speaker. And if you're not doing that right now, for me, it's totally fine. But you're all pretty much tracking me right now, so that's a good thing. But that's kind of the main gist of what I wanted to share, but I've got another little thing. But what I want you to think about, we're going to take a break right now. We're going to take a longer break now. Hallelujah, right? So what I want you, while you're taking a break, is what practice of these routines could you add to your life tomorrow? Why does that practice or routine appeal to you? What are some obstacles that could stand in your way? And who can be an encouragement to you to implement your practice or routine? So what I want you to do now is kind of turn and talk with your group again, get a little bit of connection as to something. I had a couple people mention things to me, but I'm kind of curious what I share with you that resonates with you right now, if anything. If not, like I said, pitch it out. But just kind of share together as a group something that you'd like to start to add in to kind of bring that kind of calm, that balance into your life. So again, it's just going to be a couple minutes. It's a little bit awkward because we just sat back down. But now we're going to kind of turn and talk with our friends again around us and make that connection. And then we'll share out again. Like maybe even do a tally as to what things you think are going to work for you. So chat away. So share out what your group, if somebody wants to share out and kind of say what was kind of the main theme or idea that you had.
Focusing.
Okay.
It seems like what you're coming to, for me, it just seems like it's all focus.
Right.
It's like, pick a color. You're focusing on that. Pick a subject, pick a word for the journaling, which that one for me is big because when I journal, there's all of this, and I don't know what to write in the end. But if I'm focusing on that one word that I pick,
right,
I feel like it'll make journaling easier.
Perfect. And you can even still have the ramblings, which is great because we're getting things out. When we journal, we get things out. But having maybe even in the back is where you can start the gratitude list too. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, I wonder if I don't focus on the one thing and start journaling on that, if the rest doesn't just kind of,
yeah,
a little bit easier.
Yeah. Good thought. Yeah.
We came up with being consistent. To me, that's what you're, doing it every day, getting in a pattern and pattern.
And I'm glad you picked up on that because it truly is. The more that we build routine into our lives, the more that, and I'm not saying that I'm always strict on the routine. Some things I will not give up, like the Calm app or doing my daily routine. It doesn't matter where I'm at. I'm going to consistently do that because it's just a great way for me to start my day. So again, I'm glad that was part of your conversation. What else? Yes.
I used to do this. Every day I used to start my morning off with the sun salutation, which is a yoga practice that combines like, I don't know, 7 or 8, I don't know how many poses into one just.
With the inhale, you really focus on the inhale and the exhale.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
stretching and movement. And that's what I want to add back.
Awesome. Yes. Sun salutations are a great way to get that body energized and moving. Good. What else? Claudia.
Something I thought was fun, these two gentlemen didn't get to say what they wanted to do, but the two of us did. And when I said I'd like to do abdominal exercises, but it's too cold, so I stay under covers and do nothing, my husband suggested he could turn the heat up. That was good. And this friend of Ryan gave a great point that he turns his heat on, goes up to the bathroom, which I think my bathroom's warmer too, and that I could go on into the bathroom and do the abdominals. So it was pretty nice to get help on this.
If you close the bathroom door, it heats up really fast. It's such a smaller space.
Good point. Excellent. See, we're like brainstorming together. This is awesome. What else? What else?
I would like to move my meditation to the mornings because I'm not a morning person, but I think if I did that, my day would go better.
Like I said, mine's always in the morning. And again, it depends on the time of day too. But it's awesome that you have that as a part of your routine. That's great. It's perfect. I haven't heard from this side of the room.
I like the camera-less photography, or the, I had missed out a lot being a photographer, like thinking I was a photographer and everybody else was doing their thing and I'm like fiddling with the camera and taking mental pictures instead speaks to me as a stillness activity.
Right. Good. Thanks. Yeah. What else?
For me, it's, taking a walk in nature is the thing that I'm doing, like, just noticing new things, taking a different way, and just finding beauty in the little things that you discover and that the universe has to offer you, and being present enough to notice them.
Perfect. Yes. That's awesome. So I hope that something I love hearing, even how you're going to twist it a little bit or change my routine or what worked for me. That's what I was hoping that all of you were going to take away from this, is that this becomes a part of who you are. And like I said, I am sharing from a place where I was not in a place of joy and light, and that I was able to get there. Do I still have really horrible moments? Absolutely. That's what grief is, a beast, right? It's a beast. But that I can still kind of tap in and still have moments that bring me just great joy. So there's a book that this is what we're got two more little things that we're going to kind of wrap up with. This book this is just for educators, but I pulled something from this that I do with my students every semester when I teach this course. And it's called, the book is for strategies for creating a trauma-sensitive classroom. So when we have students that have experienced trauma, these are just strategies that I help them work through and teach to their future students, and think about ways of supporting them well. But the chapter in this book that I love the most, and what I focus quite a bit with them on, is called the Self-Care Challenge. And it's the Self-Care Challenge is at the back of the book. And basically what I've done is I've kind of created this for you as well, if you want a little starting point. But before we pass them out, I want to you can't see here, it says, put on cement shoes, stay out of Oz, remain grounded. Let me find mine, because it's missing from mine too. Oh wait, hang on. Sorry everyone. Thank you for being patient with me. That's what I always say to my students. Thank you for being patient. So put on cement shoes, stay out of Oz, remaining grounded. When in doubt, shut your mouth and take a breath. And remember that it's not about you. This is a good thing. So basically, I'm going to read for you a part out of Cement Shoes, what cement shoes means. And one of the things that it talks about is the importance as teachers to remain grounded, and for all of us to remain grounded. And so he has a whole concept of putting on cement shoes. And it says, one thing that I've learned is that the more self-aware we become, the easier it is for us to manage the needs of those in front of us. We are most likely to make mistakes or say things we regret when we venture away from our sense of self. As you begin to define your sense of self, Think about which key aspects of yourself cannot, no matter what, be taken from you. What can you truly hold on to and rely on? The answers become your way of identifying your cement shoes. Mental imagery helps bring this metaphor to life. Imagine that you're walking on the beach toward the ocean. When you are up to your ankles in water and a wave hits, what happens? What about when you are up to your knees, your waist, or chest? The farther you go out, the more likely you are to be toppled by the waves that crash upon you. Now I would like you to imagine that you wear a pair of cement shoes. If you were firmly grounded where you stood, you would be less likely to be toppled by the waves that hit you, no matter how big. Although I would never recommend that anyone stand in the ocean wearing cement shoes, I want you to envision this as a way of staying true to your ideals, integrity, vision, beliefs, and self. In your classroom, this is written for teachers, or in a professional setting, or in life, right? If you do this, you will be less likely to be swayed from who you are and how you want to be. And you will be less likely to compromise yourself and your integrity in the process. So that's cement shoes. And when he also talks about staying out of Oz, and she does, it's co-authored, it means in the classroom setting where a student is beginning to show some significant behavior, and it's swirling, and everybody's being pulled into this drama, and everything is chaos, that as a teacher, we remain grounded. And for myself, I'm going to tell you that staying out of Oz is one of the best things I did for Annie. One of the times I took her to detox, and she was one of the most loving, caring people. But when she was in detox, she was one of the most ugly, nasty people. It's our body's defense. It's our body's way of recovering. And she was so mean and just ugly. And I remember just sitting there, and I was just like, had my eyes closed, and I was breathing, doing my little breath, and she was getting more and more irritated. And I said, I'm just not going to engage with you right now. I'm here to support you, but I'm not going to engage in a conversation with you. And it was interesting because when she went into the detox and we went to visit her, she said there was a guy in the room next to us, and he told me I was absolutely horrid towards you. She said, I was terrible. She goes, I just want to say I'm sorry. And I was like, she said, I appreciate that you stayed calm. You didn't react. So again, I don't think if I had not had all of this in place, I probably would have been reacting, because my first self was at the beginning of her journey. So that's kind of where I'm coming from in terms of staying where you are. And then the fourth one, when in doubt, shut your mouth, the last one, remember that it's not about you, and it's a good thing. Because that's part of it for me as well, is that I knew that it wasn't about me. It was about her journey. And my role was to support her emotionally, and we only gave money towards things that were for her recovery. We never paid a bill. If she got into debt, we left it. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you that for us, this was freedom, because she was the one who was taking care of her recovery. And so part of my sharing that with you is just to just say, I understand. I get it. I get it. So we're going to pass out our little self-care challenge to you. Because I created this, it's like I told you, it's in the back of the book, and I create this for my students. But I just wanted you to have your own copy. And like I said, at the very beginning of what I was sharing with you, take what works for you, leave the rest. But here is like a framework, and I would always tell my students, try it. And they would come back the next week and they said, I did it. And then I'd say, great, do it another week. So the challenge is to just keep doing it for a month, is basically what it is. Just do it for a month. So the very first one is health. Select at least 3 days this week to exercise for 40 minutes. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Take a walk, or do yoga, or play tennis, or pickleball. Right, Mary Jo?
You're not allowed to say pickleball for a week.
And then love, I love this one. Love is give yourself a cookie this week. What did you do just for you? It might be for me it would be picking up a Dunkin' Donuts cold brew sweet foam coffee. That would be something that I would pick up for myself. But it's important for you, whether you are in recovery, whether you're supporting someone in recovery, that each of you, everybody takes care of themselves and gives themselves a little bit of love. Don't expect it from anybody else. The third one's a little bit more challenging, competency. Try something new this week. For all of you, it might be something that I've talked about today. One time it was I really wanted to learn how to make ricotta cheese. That was a weird one. But I really wanted to make ricotta cheese. Annie was a fabulous chef, and she was like, Mom, it is so easy to make. So again, sometimes I do things kind of in loving memory of her. And then the last part is gratitude and intention. I added intention. He just, in the book, just focused on gratitude, but just journal your gratitude about something or someone today. So, everybody up for the challenge? The only prize is that you're focusing on you. Sorry, I don't have a prize if you complete this, but it's just for you. But I kind of want to wrap up because I'm bringing it back to joy. And this book, the Book of Joy, is a great read, and even better is the movie Mission Joy, and it's with the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. And this book, along with the movie, just it resonated with me in so many ways. And I put this quote up here, and it says, and what I'm thinking of is what I wrote here. Little did I realize that joy would permeate my life through practice and intention. This book and the movie Mission Joy are a true inspiration. And when I watched this movie, I was on the plane, and I'm laughing, and I'm crying, and I'm sure people were looking at me like, what is wrong with her? But this quote, I had to stop, and I had to keep replaying it because I loved this quote so much. And it says, we are put in a fiery furnace to be refined. In fact, in some ways, some suffering, maybe intense suffering, is a necessary ingredient for developing compassion. Suffering is the opportunity testing you. Suffering is what makes you appreciate joy. So I know that many of you, just like me, have sat in suffering, and it's hard, and it's just painful. But sometimes that suffering, I think about Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama, and both of them had incredible suffering in their lives. I cannot imagine being exiled for 50 years, which is the Dalai Lama, and never going back to my home. So I think about these two men and how inspirational they are and how much they've inspired me. And I do feel like this is a moment for me to share and pay it forward. You know, you always think about that, paying it forward, paying it forward. I'm going to read this again. Although the past 7 months have been a refining fire, I can honestly say that I am able to experience joy through the suffering. My analogy is going to the eye doctor. She puts the lenses in front of my eyes and says, is this better? Or is this better? Is this better? Or is this better? And the moment that Annie passed away, it was almost as if the most perfect pair of glasses had been placed in front of my emotional eyes. Her death brought clarity to the joy and beauty of family, to live each day to the fullest, to cherish every breath, to be so grateful for this time with all of you. And this is my moment of grace, joy, and gratitude today. So I thank you for allowing me to share part of my journey with you.